Well, artificial intelligence is reshaping the global order, not just in technology, but also in economics, in governance, and geopolitics. And even as Prime Minister Narendra Modi co chairs the 2-day AI Action Summit in Paris, the focus is going to be on AI safety, innovation, the future of work, and governance frameworks. Meanwhile, two major global developments have intensified the AI race. The United States has just announced a massive $500 billion AI innovation fund, and China has unveiled deepfake, pushing the boundaries of AI-powered content manipulation. And as world leaders and tech executives convene in Paris, Donald Trump's AI ambitions and China's deep-seek advancements loom large. Will artificial intelligence and AI geopolitics dominate discussions at the summit? India's AI movement? There are 5 key issues on the table. Now, there's public interest, AI, the future of work, AI-driven innovation and cultural impact, trust and ethics in artificial intelligence, global AI governance, and how can India leverage its position as OpenAI's second largest market and emerge as a global AI leader as well. Can India ride the AI wave, scale up homegrown startups, and amplify the voice of the global south in artificial intelligence governance? Well, to discuss this, joining me on the News 9 Plus show are Somraj Bhattacharjee, AI expert in marketing strategy. We've got Sidharth Pai, founding partner, CFO, and ESG officer of 341 Capital, and my colleague and editor international, TV9 Network, S. Sridharan. A very warm welcome to you, gentlemen. You know, when we talk about India's global AI strategy, Sri, let me come to you very quickly. AI is now deeply tied to national security, economic strength, and digital sovereignty. Those are some of the new words that people have now had to add into their daily lexicons. But how do you see India's positioning at the Paris summit influencing global AI policy making?
First off, Kabir, the fact that our Prime Minister is the co-chair, India is the co-host of this summit, tells you something about how seriously the government is taking AI. We heard just a few days ago the IT Minister talking about how India will have its own foundation model before the end of this year, and eventually we'll also have our own computing power, GPUs, that are so important to create these foundation models. But from our perspective, Kabir, it is very important for a country like India to not to be reliant on foreign AI models and foreign AI computing power, whether it's cloud, whether it's even applications. I think India, as a country of 1.4 billion people, which will be the 4th largest economy and has aspirations of becoming a global leader, must develop its own AI models which are made in India for Indians. Because don't forget, India is a country, it's a diverse country. We need models which are in Indian languages, which are supported by Indian languages. And the case application, the application of these AI will have to address the problems that our people face. It has to be contextually, it has to be relevant, culturally it has to be relevant. The data sets have to be Indian. So I think it is very important. And the India AI mission in some sense is the direction in which the government wants to go, and that's a very, very good direction to go. But I think the core issue will be, how does government make its resources available to private enterprises, to entrepreneurs, for startups, to actually leverage? Because I don't think this whole AI thing can be done within the government, with the bureaucracy of governance. We need to partner with private sector, whether it's from India or from abroad, but create solutions which are made in India for India.
Well, absolutely. Many thanks for those opening comments. You know, Mr. Pai, I'm going to come to you next. Before we talk about this balance that needs to be struck between the private and the public, just like, Sri was talking about the significance of Prime Minister Modi being in France, and with India's growing AI ambitions, do you see a geopolitical shift where India becomes a key artificial intelligence player? I mean, take a look at the amount of population and the brains and the talent that we have to offer, much like it did with the IT boom as well.
Yeah, I think that's actually a fantastic question. India's often, anytime there's been any conflict in the world, India has always firmly placed itself on the middle path. We've actually seen this when we had NAM, we've seen this throughout the 90s and 2000s, even with the Russia-Ukraine war as well, where India is actually in touch with both sides for that matter. So I think India will continue to end up actually advocating its own middle path strategy. But I think when it comes to AI as well, for that matter, we are seeing the AI world get split between the Americans on one side and China on the other. And Europe's actually trying to be the referee in between. But I think what the world is looking for as of now, the world is looking for a third path with open source models which are there, as well as the data privacy that the rest of the world is actually used to. And this is something that that the Honorable IT Minister ended up actually speaking about when Sam Altman came to the city as well. I don't think India actually lacks when it comes to AI acumen. I think we actually lack the capital that ends up actually going into it, and the investments that are needed to end up actually training and building these models for that matter itself. So I think as India does a lot of awareness about its AI capabilities, unless those awareness campaigns are actually supported by concrete capital that ends up actually going in, the tax policies that are aligned to end up increasing the R&D activities done by a large number of our companies and allowing startups to end up leading this evolution from the forefront, I think there is a good chance we'll end up actually missing the AI wave itself. It's still fairly early on for that matter. India is actually making the right noises, but the right policy steps also need to be accelerated, and that's when we'll totally end up actually punching way above our weight.
Mr. Bhattacharjee, let's bring you in on the discussion as well, because given the rapid advances in AI, particularly China's DeepSeek R1 and OpenAI's expanding footprint in India, I mean, it's not a coincidence that Sam Altman was here in India just a couple of days back. How do you see India now positioning itself in this global AI arms race, if one could call it that?
Absolutely. So as the other two panelists talked about, data security is a major concern for everybody. And with the USA not really having a governed principle to control AI, Europe has GDPR, but India does not. So India is, as a matter of fact, as you speak, working on a Digital Data Protection Act, DDPS Act, which is in the parliament and under discussion. India is taking a lot of initiatives in this, and we are one of the few, I would say, third world countries that are leading the AI change. And with the Honorable Prime Minister being there as a co-chair at the panel at the AI panel in Paris, this is going to bring in a global South AI revolution that will take things ahead significantly. And we very well stand positioned to leverage this moment in history where we are going to be the first ones from the third world country to take AI forward. This has not happened before. This is something that happened during the 1990s when the internet came in. We were late to the boom then, but we are not late to the boom now. So how I see India positioned to take forward the global South's AI concerns. And one of the key things to be done in this concern by the government is to push forward the DDPA Act as soon as possible.
All right. Let's also talk about building an artificial intelligence ecosystem that is for India by India. Sri, a point that you wanted to touch upon in your opening comments as well. Because India is OpenAI's second largest market. There's no doubts about that. Yet, we remain dependent on proprietary models. How does India envision an AI for India that is by India, a strategy that prioritizes, let's say, indigenous innovation over something else?
So that is what the India AI mission aspires to do. It aspires to create the entire ecosystem that is required to build India's AI capability. So Kabir, there are four broad layers which are critical in this whole AI value system. One is, of course, the computing power of the GPUs, which today NVIDIA controls. Then there is the foundation models, which again today is controlled by the large companies in Silicon Valley. DeepSeek R1 is now an open source model available, but there are trust issues when it comes to China. So I don't know how the world is going to respond to that. Then you have cloud computing, and then finally you have the applications which you need to interface with these LLMs and small language models. So as India, we need to have companies operating and building on all these four layers. We cannot say that, okay, we are only going to focus on, let's say, foundation models, but not focus on, let's say, the computing power or on building our cloud infrastructure or application, because application essentially is what our people will end up using, our farmers, our, people in villages, hopefully, and obviously the urban, Indians also. So what is required really, Kabir, is a partnership, a strong partnership between the government and the private sector, where we are able to leverage the resources, the power of the government. If government wants to do something, it can bring tremendous amount of resources, its muscle power and regulation, everything to the game. But what government doesn't do very well is to innovate, which the private sector does very well. It's more capital efficient, it's more ingenious. So therefore, we need a great partnership to happen between the government and the private sector, and the call for basically entries for building the foundation model is also part of that. But what I would like to see is that Indian companies should not get locked in with these prop tech, AI providers, because ultimately we need a path out of prop tech into our own, in some sense, open models, which others can start building on, and that becomes the de facto ecosystem, the global south, in some sense, which India can then lead. If you were to remain reliant on, let's say, the open AIs or NVIDIA's, or let's say, an Amazon for, or Microsoft Azure for the AI infrastructure, then we won't go very far with this whole aspiration of being or becoming an innovator in the AI space.
So, Sri, you sort of like, broken apart the four layers of what constitutes an AI, and I hear that there's over-reliance that could become a problem for India. Mr. Pai, again, picking up from where Sri's left us, one of India's biggest hurdles in the AI development is hardware. One of those first layers that Sri was talking about, specifically GPUs and computing power. Now, how can India bridge this particular gap? Do you see public-private partnerships playing a crucial role here again?
No, 100%. I think the belief that the government can actually step in and I would say subsidy for the private sector is actually extremely ill-found, for that matter. The government has also numerous occasions stated that the job of the government is to end up actually clearing the playground, setting the rules, and thereby allowing market participants to end up actually doing what's needed. But I think on something when it comes to AI as well, just having the kind of government support, the government policy support will become crucial. For example, the import of any sort of GPU right now has extremely high import duties that end up actually getting attracted. This makes anyone who wants to end up importing these particular components for the training of their data next to impossible. We don't yet have a concrete industry that can end up actually manufacturing these GPUs as of now. We are obviously reliant on what NVIDIA and others end up actually creating in factories in Taiwan, factories in China, and as well as the whole of Southeast Asia as well. So I think what's required as of now for the government to do is to relook at all the policy that it has, especially on your foreign exchange, especially on import controls, etc. End up actually removing some of these artificially laid barriers that prevent Indian entrepreneurs and Indian innovators from actually dabbling into these sort of areas itself. I think everyone's foray into AI right now is either through an American system or through a Chinese system through the DeepSeek as of now. We don't actually have anything that's actually built up in India. Even the AI startups that are coming out as of now, the vast amount of the capital they raise is actually spent on compute, on the compute infrastructure. Given the fact that we have these large data centers itself, can the government end up actually allowing them to actually the data centers end up actually data centers to end up training the modules? We've actually seen IITs, ISC, etc. They have not been given the funds as of now to end up actually developing these AI labs. They don't yet have the ability to end up actually creating these vast forms of GPUs for all their training. So I think though we have heard about the National AI Mission and we heard of some of these snippets, I think the salient points need to end up actually coming about, and there are enough people within the entire nation who can contribute to this. So it shouldn't be a government-led effort. Let the government end up actually being the flag bearer for this, but industry has to end up actually playing a major role. Otherwise, this scheme will not end up actually having the kind of success that India truly deserves.
Well, riveting discussion and again, pertinent points from all my panelists. Before we wrap this up, Mr. Bhattacharjee, I'm going to give you the final say because, Mr. Pai was talking about AI labs and the right kind of fund for all these educational institutes and organizations as well. China's DeepSeek, it has, of course, showed the world and demonstrated cost-effective AI model training. Now, how does India leverage something similar? How can India leverage similar innovations to create competitive AI models without the same level of computing infrastructure as the United States or China? I mean, that's where the buck stops. And we've shown it time and again with our Chandrayaan 3 as well, that we can do it better and in half that money as well.
Very valid points raised by all the other panelists. Now, one thing which I feel we missed in our discussion and I would like to bring up is investment in manpower. We have one of the youngest demographies in the world that is trained in basic mathematics, and AI algorithms and LLM models basically were run on mathematics. If we can introduce school level AI courses, college level, entry college level AI courses that are equipping the young people of today with basic mathematical background for AI algorithm training and LLM model creation, that would be a big step forward. And we need not require the hardware for this. We need not require the GPU for this. We need not require the computing power for this. We require proper training. So I feel the research ecosystem in India, the IITs, the NITs, all the other private institutions that are doing research, they are still adapting research from abroad. They are not adopting. So we need to really go ahead and do a lot of focus on innovation in AI research. That has been missing. And I feel that's where, I mean, even now, if you go to Scopus and check papers on AI research, 90% of papers would be Chinese and the rest would be American and European. You hardly find Indian authored, research papers out there. So that's one thing we really need to look at. We have missed it. And if we can really focus on that, apart from the points raised by the other panelists, manpower training is a huge lacuna, so as to say right now. If we can spend 5 years of our planning on this, I feel 5 years down the line, India will have its own LLMs coming in, own GPTs coming in. We need not rely on external hardware or engines to drive AI research. So I think that is an area we should really look at.
Well, one step, one punch, one round at a time, and I think we've made the first step in the right direction. Prime Minister Modi, he's already in France. He's going to be co-chairing that AI summit as well. Let's hope that good sense prevails, because it's safe to say that artificial intelligence is no longer just about technology. It's about power, governance, and the future of global economies. And as India asserts itself on the world stage, the question remains, can we build an AI ecosystem that is not only innovative, but also ethical, inclusive, and self-reliant? Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on the broadcast. Sri, Mr. Pai, Mr. Bhattacharjee, for your insights. But the global AI race is accelerating, and India has a unique opportunity to shape its own AI future whilst influencing global governance.